Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well today and thank you for joining today's Lunch and Learn webinar. My name is Alice Keane and I work in the marketing team here at EDB, and I'm joined by Michael Willer, who is our lead sales engineer in EMEA North. So before we get started, there's a couple of housekeeping items. The first point is please be aware that we are recording and we will be sharing the recording alongside the slides after the webinar. Secondly, the lines are muted, so if you have a question, please submit it in the Q&A question panel, and we'll make sure there's time at the end for Michael to answer your questions. And lastly, you may have noticed that everyone who is joining this Lunch and Learn from Sweden, Denmark, Finland or Norway will be receiving a lunch voucher. So your Wolt vouchers will be sent out as the webinar progresses to the email address you registered with. So you can look out for that as we get going with the webinar. Unfortunately, if you're not based in one of these countries, we won't be able to send you a voucher, but we still hope you enjoyed the content of today's session. And that's all from me. So I will hand over to you, Michael, to begin the webinar.
Thanks, Alice. So, there we go. So, agenda for today. Why are companies looking for alternatives to legacy databases? And what are the best practices to avoid vendor login? And how do you choose the best database option for your applications? So I'm Michael Willer. I'm senior sales engineer. I've been with EDB for 4 years. And prior to that, I spent roughly 30 years as a consultant in numerous consulting companies in Copenhagen. So a quick poll here. There we go. And I'm not going to respond to that. So which databases are you running at the moment? And whether or not you're running Postgres, Oracle, or both. If you'd like to migrate any database, Oracle or otherwise to Postgres, then let us know, please. Okay, 6. So at least one is running Postgres and Oracle. It's interesting. Hopefully, we can talk about migrating some of your Oracle databases, and you can save some money. That's also part of this migration webinar. So why leave a legacy database? And more specifically, what are the reasons why not to leave a migration database, or at least the ones that you would perceive as good reasons? It can be scary to do this. It is the platform and the base of the application, and moving that somewhere else is scary. But we've done it quite a number of times and for many years. So we kind of know that this is not just possible, but also easier than you might think. But questions that we're hearing from customers are, what is my return of investment on this? Am I going to get my money back? Yes, you are. And how is this possible? My team is already busy doing other things, and how do we get the buy-in from the entire organization? And the most important one, at least from my perspective, is can we reproduce the same features, the same enterprise level of high availability, recovery, and performance on an open source database, or on something that's based on an open source database? And yes, you can. So let's talk about this. So first of all, cost. This is from a calculator that we have, and if you want to see your numbers in this, then please let us know, because we'd more than love to talk to you about how you can save a lot of money on your databases. It is a bit busy. I apologize for that, but So the red bar on the do nothing versus migrate is your current Oracle cost, and the pink background is the usual progression of Oracle costs, where they increase every year. So we've charted that in. Then the idea is that first year you migrate a number of databases to Postgres, and that saves you quite a bit of money and costs you a bit. That's the green part. And then of course that continues a number of years. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of savings possible here. Again, these are just examples. So please get in touch with us, and we'll have a look at your numbers and also estimate the effort needed to migrate your databases and so on, which I'll get back to in a moment. And that is exactly now. We have a consulting company. We're not a consulting company, but we have consultants. We have consultants because our customers need them, specifically for this and for tuning engagements, strategy engagements, and so on. But our consultants do a lot of migrations during a year. And we will be with you on the entire journey, all the way from the problem statement, setting up goals and so on for a migration, proposing solution, performing cost benefit analysis with you, risks and mitigations, and so on. All these things are part of our service. The thing to think about in this type of migrations, it's not just one application. Typically, it's more applications, and it's also how can I put this? The most difficult thing about a migration is not the technology itself. Actually, it's the people. So this is what this slide is all about, right? Setting up the drivers, setting up goals for a migration, and mobilizing your organization. So if you have a business case, then that business case needs to be circulated far and wide, and you need to engage with the people everywhere from the operations teams that are going to run the databases at the end to the development teams who will be needed for tweaks in the application to better perform on Postgres. All the way having the correct metrics and so on to follow up on your business case and so on. And that is what this slide is all about, right? So validating the migration drivers, making sure that your ops is ready to receive this and is with you all the way on this journey. Setting up the correct approach for the program, including all the stakeholders, following up on business cases, and so on. Again, we can guide you with this. We can help you in this, and really make your migration a huge success for your company. So the big question now is, how do we do this? How is this done from EDB's side? So from a project side, so if we're looking at a single application or maybe even several applications, we'll do an assessment first. Typically, if there are numerous applications, we'd want to assess everything in one go, because that would enable us to plan the best way forward. You know, the applications that are ready to perform this, again, it's about people. So is the application team ready at a specific time to handle this application? What about the other application teams? When are they available to help with a migration of a database? Sorry, of an application. All that needs to be planned. So we'd like to take the entire thing into account first, and then build a plan that works for everyone with you, of course. And then, of course, the individual databases need to be migrated. First, of course, a test database, in which case, once you have a test database up and running, the application can now be set to run on that. That will result in the application team coming online, running tests and making changes to the places that need to change in the sense of a migration like this. There are some things that might need tweaking. It could be, for instance, a couple of queries that are built in such a way that they don't run optimally on Postgres, and with a bit of tweaking, they will run a lot faster. Small anecdote from that, I had a query once with a customer we were talking to. They had a data warehouse query that would run for 1.5 minutes on Oracle. And they asked us how fast that would run on Postgres. And they run it first and tested it, and it ran for 7 minutes. And they said, well, is this right? We tuned the query. Most of the performance gain was from tuning the query in this case. And once we were done with that, it ran in less than 2 seconds. So there are some tweaks that might be needed, and you will see some very big gains on your database. I'm not saying that this is the case for every single query, of course, but this is an extreme example, but there are possible gains there. And again, all of this, we're with you the entire way. We have the experience to perform these types of migrations. To help you with deployment options. We have tools for migration, which I'll get back to in just a minute, and the database compatibility of advanced server. And database compatibility of advanced server is one of the biggest reasons to move from Oracle to advanced server and not go straight to Postgres, because we have 95% compatibility with Oracle. That comes from statistics in the migration portal, which is the next one over here. But if you just imagine, 95% compatibility means that 19/20th of the entire work has already been done for you. So if you were to migrate to Postgres directly, the migration would require a lot more work. And you would also, because the database level data types change, you would need to do a lot more work in the application. But with advanced server, your application can function almost fully without any change. I've written applications myself where I migrated them to advanced server from Oracle and didn't change a comma in the application itself. Simple applications, definitely, but it is possible to do. In more complex situations, maybe some tweaks need to be done. That's why we need the application team to be available. So statistics coming from Migration Portal. Migration Portal is free to use. It's web-based, it's on our website, and you essentially just download the an extractor that will extract the source code, if you will, of your schema. That means the tables, indexes, packages, triggers, and so on. You upload that into Migration Portal, and it will perform a migration for you and tell you not just a number saying it's X% compatible. It will go into specifics on specific triggers, specific code lines in PL SQL and so on, and tell you what needs to change. It will also perform a number of changes that we are already aware need to be done. So that just happens automatically. When it comes to moving the data itself, we have two nice tools that we use. Migration Toolkit is kind of a big bang approach. It will migrate the entire data in one go. and of course parallelize that as much as humanly possible and so on. So it's very fast in doing it. Its name comes from the fact that it was earlier also the one that we used for performing schema migrations. Today, we tend to use Migration Toolkit for quick and dirty migrations if we need to do that, or if we need to have a little bit more control, we'll use Migration Portal for the schema part and then use Migration Toolkit for the data, which it is very effective in doing. But sometimes it's not fast enough, right? You have a maintenance window of 15 minutes or something like that, where you're allowed to shut down the application and then transfer to from an Oracle bound application to a Postgres bound application. 15 minutes is not a very long time, especially if it's a large database. So that's where replication server comes in, which uses change data capture. So your databases are in sync. So you've migrated the schema. Now you're using replication server. So all changes on the Oracle side are automatically switched or sent to the advanced server, Postgres advanced server database. And then you can perform the switch when it makes sense and when you're allowed to perform that switch and so on. And all of it, again, supported by migration services. They'll be with you. They'll teach your team how to perform these migrations. What usually we want to do is we want you to be self-sustained, if you will, so that once we get to the real production migration, we can step back. We'll still advise you, we'll still be there and so on, but your team will be doing the migration of your production data. First of all, it ensures that we've done our job in teaching your team. Second, we don't have hands on your production data, which many customers prefer. So that's that one. So the benefit, I've already gotten into a number of this, right? But one thing that I haven't mentioned is, of course, that with 95% compatibility and with the ability to run Oracle workloads almost without change, the risk in a migration like this is significantly lowered. Of course, the cost is as well. We did a check a few weeks ago on all the migrations that we've done and sort of calculated what's the average time that these take. And of course, there are some that take longer, but the ones that we have been involved in, most of them are done within 20 days. So 20 days, that's not a lot for everything, right? So it's faster than you think, and it takes it's less risky than you might suspect, and all of that comes from the compatibility in advanced server, and of course our professional services teams and their experience in doing this. And one of the things is, as I said, the application itself will continue to run. Your schemas will continue to function with PL SQL that your developers have written and can continue to write in advanced server. And if you have something like Pro C programs and so on, then we also have support for OCI. So the precompiler and so on, all these things are available, the libraries that are needed for running C programs. And the best thing about this, you can run it almost anywhere. There are limitations to what you can do with Oracle, but with Postgres, you can run just about anywhere you want to. On-premise, in containers, in VMs, in private cloud if you want that, in public cloud, self-managed if you like that control, or you can migrate everything and run it in Big Animal, which is our database as a service. So there's a lot of options available to you in deploying these databases. And again, just want to mention just once more, this is what our professional services do almost every day. right? So we've done this for more than 15 years. I've lost count on the number of migrations that I've been involved in, and I have definitely lost count of the number that EDB has done in total. We also have a team we call the Migration Factory that can perform a lot of these things. Those are the ones that perform the assessment, by the way, and they will also perform the schema migrations and the rework of the PL SQL that is needed. And again, we're with you the entire way. And this is why we tend to claim that with other companies, you'll get some of the way. There are even open source tools that will migrate the schema and the data. But if you have triggers, then you have to reprogram everything. Then there are others that can try to do that, except they don't have the compatibility. So everything is now written in PGP or SQL. And if you have packages, then now they're spread across individual functions and individual procedures. And they're in Postgres, there's no such thing as globally available variables in a procedure. So if you have global variables in your packages, then you have a problem. And that's why, and again, with the APIs, with the tools that we have for high availability, for backup and recovery and so on, you get all the way. You get a full enterprise-ready environment that you can run your workloads on. Right. Roughly 80%. Save as much as 80% on your Oracle licenses and support. Again, we don't have license costs. We have subscriptions. So there is no capital expenditure involved in the migration. It's an annual recurring revenue. Again, 20 days, roughly 20 days for every migration, and a 95% compatibility. Very important before we go to questions. We have a program that we're running at the moment, which is guaranteed Postgres migration. So that means no risk to you at all. You get free assessment, you get free migration services, including immediate actions on 25 queries and 10 performance tuned queries, and so on. Alice will send you the presentation. There's a website form there, or you can call us and get in touch with us, and we'll be more than happy to talk about this. So, are there any questions?
Yeah, you've had a few through, Michael, so thank you everyone for asking your questions. We've had one from Laura, which is, what are some of the key features and benefits of EDB's migration tools for transitioning from other database systems to PostgreSQL?
Right. So our migration tools, unfortunately, are targeted at Oracle itself. We do have collaborations with some of our partners who are experts in migrating other database types to Postgres. So if you have that and you're sort of wondering what is possible, please get in touch with us. We have a broad network of partners that can help with the migration itself, and of course afterwards we'll support the databases 24/7 and so on. Thank you, Laura.
Great, thanks, Michael. And then the next question is from Barry, which is, what are the typical challenges that organizations face during the migration process, and how do EDB's migration tools address those challenges?
Well, there's the technical side, and I would leave that to the professional services team to talk about. There are some things that are more difficult than others, but most of it is something that can be handled. There can be some, what is it called? Collation problems during a migration that needs to be fixed. And again, our consultants are experts in handling things like that. But the biggest challenge, and you did ask the biggest challenge, that is the people. It is getting everybody aligned on when things happen, and that things are happening now. You need to be available, you need to be here, you need to have your team available, and so on. It's all the pre-planning that's essential for a migration. The technical side is not that, sorry to say, but, or not sorry to say, but it sounds a bit fresh, but it's not that big of a deal, to be honest. Thanks, Barry.
Thanks, Michael. And then we've had a question from Lynette, which says, could you highlight any success stories or customer testimonials that showcase the effectiveness of EDB's migration tools in real-world scenarios?
Oh boy, that requires me to mention names that I'm not sure I can mention.
Maybe describe the company rather than the name, Michael.
Well, we've had some insurance companies, for instance, that migrated. So we've had and saved. I don't know. I'm a techie. I work for sales, sure, but I'm a techie. So I don't have numbers like that in my head. I have features, compatibilities, and so on. That's what my memory is being used for mostly. Solutions, architectures, and all that. So insurance companies, credit card companies, a bank in the Nordics migrated early on from, I think, DB2, most of their databases away. So everything that's currently in that bank running on DB2, Oracle, has to run on that because of vendor requirements. The rest is running on advanced server, and there is a rule in that bank now that everything needs to run on advanced server unless it is completely impossible to run on that. They've been a customer of ours for, well, more than 4 years, because they've been a customer long before I started. So, and they're still talking to us. So there you go. I guess that's a success.
Thanks, Michael. That's all the questions we've had through from everyone. So thank you everyone for joining us for the webinar. Last thing to say is